Hi, it's Dwyer. DwyerBoxingNews.com, GamblersAdvisory.com. Let's talk about boxing history for a moment. And in my opinion, one of the biggest fights in the history of the sport that curiously has been airbrushed over in the history books. Now, understand that because of political upheaval and because of the realities of geopolitical events, giving sporting events increased significance, whether or not the fighters in the event share the beliefs of the leaders in the political movements. What's happened is that over time, people with agendas have literally tried to erase key moments from the history books. So, for example, my favorite fight, perhaps ever, took place July 4th, 1910. Right? You can look it up. Just understand that that fight was so controversial that in the United States they actually banned the interstate transportation of the fight films. Right? People who were alive during that time were denied the chance to see the fight film in several states here in the United States. Right? It was literally a generation later that people were actually able to go back and look at the fight films. Now, this video is not about that fight, even though I consider that fight to be really one of the biggest athletic events in history. No, this video is actually on a different fight. A fight you may not have heard of that was very meaningful. It took place on June the 8th of 1933. Now understand, in Europe a lot was going on. By the end of the decade, the world would know about the Holocaust. Right? Think about it. Right? Jesse Owens was lionized for doing well in the 1936 Olympics. Right? A black man in an Olympics taking place in Munich, and everyone then knew that Adolf Hitler was a racist, fascist, right? And everyone at the time understood that Adolf Hitler had certain racial preferences on who he wanted to win gold medals at the 36 Olympics. Well, let's back up a few years. In 1933, Adolf Hitler's favorite fighter, Max Schmeling, right, his favorite, the same Schmeling who fought Joe Louis, hopped in the ring against Max Baer. Now, you need to know who Max Baer is, because, of course, for this fight, Max Baer, who was Jewish, his father was Jewish, Max Baer wore the Star of David on his trunks. Right? There's a historical debate on whether this is the first time Max Baer did. But Max Baer, for this fight, there's no question, had the Star of David on his trunks, making sure everyone in the arena understood that he was Jewish, as he fought Adolf Hitler's favorite fighter. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not here to say Max Schmeling was a Nazi. There's a lot of historical proof to the contrary. But Max Schmeling was Germany's best heavyweight, and he was actively and publicly embraced by Adolf Hitler. So you need to understand that this fight is taking place against a backdrop of persecution against Jews. Right? And what happened that night was Max Baer came out, gave a masterful performance. Baer is a former heavyweight champion. You need to know who he is, right? He won the belt later, right? But understand, in fact, he won the belt in his very next fight after beating Max Schmeling. But that night, a Jew, wearing the Star of David on his trunks, knocked out Adolf Hitler's favorite fighter in the 10th round of a blockbuster event that took place in Yankee Stadium. And understand, one of the promoters for the event was Jack Dempsey. Right now, because of what happened thereafter, the Holocaust, you can imagine a Nazi PR propaganda machine and things like that, this fight seems to have vanished from many history books. It shouldn't. Understand, Max Baer to this day remains one of the hardest punchers in heavyweight history. Understand, when he took the title from Primo Carnera, he knocked down Carnera several times on his way to winning the heavyweight championship by knockout, right, in the 11th round. So Max Baer is a historical figure, right? His son was one of the actors on Beverly Hillbillies. You need to know who he is. But in my opinion, in terms of a fighter sensing the moment, coming out and making a statement, rarely does the sport hit the level that it did with Max Baer's decision to wear the Star of David on his trunks the night of June the 8th, 1933. We all love the sport of boxing. Sometimes the sport loves us back. I believe it did on that night. Let me hear from you. Leave your comments for me here online. I know this is not a prediction video, but really this site is about talking about a sport we love. And let's talk about the great moments, especially moments like this that may have been forgotten by many as we go forward. Thanks for watching.